Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. This is a really important one. I think it's time to dispel a few myths and rumours and, just garbage that gets spread around the internet. Unfortunately, in this world we live in, everyone's connected a lot better and anyone can just come along and, make up the story the way they want to tell it. So look, this is the way we see it. We only work on 1KD-FTV engines. A lot of injectors, Prados, servicing and general repairs we see, and we just want to explain it from our perspective, and it is our perspective, so everyone's got their own. From the whole fleet of vehicles that we service or replace injectors or supply injectors, whether it's to trade or DIYs, we're talking about thousands of cars. They don't have cracked pistons. Okay, so out of all the vehicles we've ever done that for, there's around about 3 that I can think of that have had a cracked piston. One had a Steinbauer chip, one had a HKS and a tune, and one had 380,000 Ks on it, and those injectors had been in for 240. So it's well documented by Toyota that the reason pistons crack is the injectors causing wrong combustion. So don't doubt that. Our statistics back that up. Now what you got to remember is there's other brands out there that people want to recommend, and people love their Rangers just like people love Prados, but we know of people, we've heard of people that have had 1, 2 and up to 3 engines crack pistons and engine problems before 100,000 Ks. Now we're not rubbishing the Ranger engine or the brand, we're just trying to say there's bigger problems than Toyotas. We've chosen to work on these engines because they're good. They're really tough engines, but they are just a 4-cylinder that you've got in your big four-wheel drive that you're loading up and quite often towing. A 4-cylinder was never designed to do that sort of work long term. Engines have improved over the years. They used to wear rings and bores and things and big end bearings. That sort of doesn't happen anymore with the 1KDs. We're talking about those because that's what we're talking about. Don't worry about other engines. They've improved a lot over the years, but something's going to give. And when you've got, at the end of the day, the engine, it's an explosion, a little explosion going on in that pot there, pushing the piston down to push that vehicle in that wind resistance and with that weight up the road. Look, it's not going to do it forever. Something's got to give, and what gives in small block diesels is the pistons. They do crack. The Prado and the Toyota brand's really awesome. They do have minimal problems. There's nothing that regularly comes up. In service, there's things that come up, okay? So we talk about, let's go quickly to the wheel bearings. The front wheel bearing thing. Okay, it's not all of them, it's not a lot of them. They do eventually wear. Look, they're a sealed bearing that's unserviceable. The grease isn't going to stay in there, they're not going to last forever, okay? Some people see hundreds of thousands of Ks out of them. Some people see 100, or it's most commonly around 200 to 300,000 Ks you need to replace those. Think of it this way, they're not that costly. With the older four-wheel drives, you used to have to repack the wheel bearings every 40,000, which was labour intensive, and you'd pay for it anyway. Now you haven't got that maintenance to do or to worry about, but eventually it's going to get noisy, or you're going to get some pain and you're going to have to replace it, okay? So that's the deal. The Toyotas, the Prados, they're really awesome. We say stick with the last of the best, the 1KD. The 1GD in theory is a good engine. Problem is it's smaller, and the feedback from people is that, it does feel a little bit less powerful or less sluggish, even though the numbers are up. Sorry, more sluggish, less, not as much go, not as much response. And look, it is a smaller engine, so I think you're going to get that. The way to avoid the cracked piston thing, and we're looking at engines, we've got a couple here, cracked pistons, yes. We have changed engines, we've changed turbos, all sorts of things. But it's not about that. What it's about is, it's a small problem. There's hundreds of thousands of these 1KDs just in Australia. Last time we tried to work it out, I think it was around 600,000. Look, it could be more or less, I don't know, but there's a lot of them. And we're talking how many cracked pistons. There's one group with maybe less than 100 people that, of the whole internet that's, when it all goes bad, people hit up Google and they find all these places, and that's what needs to be taken into account, because all the bad news is online. So if you've got, 100 people with a cracked piston on an online survey or Facebook or whatever, there's a few things around. Let's even say 200 or whatever. Very small percentages. It's not even going to make 1%. It's not even going to make 0.1%. When you've got hundreds of thousands of these engines, and you've got, 100, 200? Well, you could have 300, or let's just pretend for a minute there's 500 cracked pistons in Australia, which I don't think there is, but You know, there could be more, I could be wrong. It's still less than 1%, even if it was 1,000. Even if it was 5,000, it's less than 1%. But let's get back to reality. All the bad news is online. There's the groups. The most we can round up is 100 or 200 people. Half the people in the groups, or more, or even more, most of the people haven't even got cracked pistons. They're just having a little panic about it because they've seen a few cracked pistons. Now, understand it. Avoid chips and tunes and putting more power onto the piston. Bigger bang means more force on the piston to give you more power, more torque. And of course the piston cracks across the gudgeon. That's what's happening here, right? Now, even if you have no chip, no tune, and your injectors are good, that's the best thing you can do. And that's what I'm saying. Our fleet, when I say that, I mean all the people we deal with, whether we've sold injectors to them, DIYs, in the trade, injectors we've installed or vehicles we've serviced, we don't see these issues. So we believe that works. Our odds are not even 0.01%. It doesn't happen. But one other contributor I'll add is if you're doing a lot of towing. As we've already touched on, if you've got the vehicle loaded up, you're travelling at speed, cruise control, you know, and you know, low revs, the engine's loaded, it's working hard, you've got a big heavy full drive, it's a Proto, yep, it is big and heavy, it's 3 tonne, sometimes over, wind resistance, roof racks, light bars, bull bars, totally ruin the dynamics of the vehicle and make it work harder, and then you've got more weight, a camper trailer or a caravan, something really big, maybe with wind resistance, it just doesn't add up. That's why there's 6 cylinders and V8s. I would suggest a V8 is what's required for towing caravans around. I'm going to be blatantly honest, okay? Mechanics and diesel fitters I speak to people every day. This is what I specialise in. There's a lot of information going both ways. We recommend different people around the country and they recommend us for this sort of work also. People in the know clearly understand and agree that a 4-cylinder engine isn't fit for purpose for this sort of treatment. And people trying to make race cars out of 4-cylinder diesels, you've got the wrong car. You really need to go and buy yourself a, I don't know, Honda Civic Type R or a WRX or a 200SX if you want something older. You know, you can do performance mods to petrol engines. Same deal, they're not going to last as long, but they're more suited to this performance upgrades. These little 4-cylinder and 5-cylinder engines, they are maxed out. The consumer wants more power, better economy. Emissions have got to be met. It's a recipe for disaster. So look, this is a positive video because now you understand what's going to cause premature failure. That's the chips and the tunes, the bad injectors, all that sort of thing. And you know what you can do to avoid it. And obviously the best service is, you know, regular oil changes. It's the lifeblood of the engine. Oil changes every 5,000, regular coolant changes. If you're towing, use lower gears. Keep the revs up around 2,500, get some air flowing through the engine to keep it cool, and so it's not working as hard. Okay, you not rev at heaps, aim for about 2.5, just under. So if you're putting along at 1,800-1,900 revs, not ideal. You want to go back a gear. All right, guys, I hope that's explained it a little bit. That's our perspective on it, and most people in the know that understand it. It's not really a problem with the pistons. If it was, you know, they just make them better. These engines have been out for longer than they've been in Australia. We're talking over 15 years ago now. You know, in Australia since 2005. If there was a problem and they could just fix it, they would have made it better. If anyone can do it, Toyota can do it. All these aftermarket pistons, there's no guarantee how well they work. You know, what have they done? A few hundred engines or whatever? Well, that's small numbers, and you know, we know one that got done by. Look, I'm not here to rubbish other brands, really. You know, it's not them. Maybe they build a good engine, but the pistons they're using, they aren't magic and whatever. There's no magic wand and magic pistons. Oh, we use these beautiful ones here. Mate, they cracked at 90,000 Ks as well, you know. So I'm not saying whether it's the pistons or the injectors. What I'm saying is, well, if they're so good, well, they still cracked at 90,000 Ks, so they're not that much better, or maybe they're not as good. But small numbers, a few hundred engines or even 1,000 is nothing compared to 600,000. The amount of engines Toyota has pumped out. So rest assured, genuine parts is the best way to go. And if you are the unfortunate person that this has happened to, I hope you didn't get a rebuild, and I hope you got a brand new long motor from Toyota with the head-on new injectors, because you can rely on factory-built engines from Japan. And rebuilt engines, we just see and hear about a lot of problems with oil leaks and burning oil and comebacks, and that's what we don't want. We're here to help. We're trying to advise you on ways to avoid these issues, and of course ways to, if it does happen to you, the best way to fix it is a new long motor, and you've got to be careful who you get to put it in, but that's a small part of the job compared to rebuilding the engine. They might forget to do it by clamp a bolt or nut or a bolt or bust a plug. It's a pain, but it can be repaired. If you take it to the right people, it's going to cost more to get the engine put in. But you know, that's your choice. It's something you're going to do once, and make sure you don't let it happen again. All right, guys, I hope that's been helpful once again. Have a nice day. See ya. One thing I did forget to show you, so it's been about 10 seconds and I just hit go again, is, you know, what the cracked piston looks like. You've probably seen it before, and let's get in there and just have a look. So, I mean, you tell me, is there an issue with this engine? Look at the combustion, what's going on there, right? You look at those pistons. I'm happy to hear from people, right? There it is, I've got a light going. We have not touched these, so a bit of debris fallen in. We haven't cleaned any oil coolant, haven't even lifted the head gasket yet. Right, it's number one that's cracked. There it is, there's number one. Typical, you know, you've seen it all before. That's what it is, all right? But just have a look at the combustion and what's going on in all these other cylinders. What do you reckon? Maybe fuel contamination, bad injectors? Talk to me, all the experts, all the Facebook experts. I'm not having a go at you, this is what people say, so I'm just repeating what they say. All the Facebook experts, all the YouTube, Google experts and that, and there's number 4, right? So that's what it is. Just wanted to show you that one a bit closer up, because you might have watched the whole video and gone, oh, why didn't you show us that? We wanted to see that. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm having trouble holding it still, but there you go. There's number 1, and there it is. All right, guys, have a nice day. See ya.